Hello, and welcome to This Week in James City County. I'm your host, Renee Dahlman. Today, I am once again joined by Leanne King. Leanne is the director for Clarion Associates, and that is a consulting firm that is working with the county on our strategic plan, which is what we're going to talk about today. Welcome, Leanne.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's been a long time. You were on once before, and I believe we were talking about the strategic plan.
That's right. That's right.
Well, glad to have you back. Very much so. So, you are the expert in all things strategic plan. That could be your new guru title. I don't know if you know that, but I would support that. I would support that. So, first of all, let's just begin with what is a strategic plan?
Sure. Well, communities, local governments create a lot of different plans. So the names of them actually do have important meanings and there are differences between them. So many people have probably heard of the county's comprehensive plan. That is, I like to think of that as really focused on physical planning in the community. Thinking about land use conservation, infrastructure, parks and recreation, housing, all the things that kind of make our community what they are, influenced by a lot of things, but really focused centrally on physical planning. A strategic plan, in comparison, is much more focused on what the local government, in this case, James City County, what your government is doing in terms of kind of community investment and programmatic kind of implementation. And it's more short-term focused than a comprehensive plan is as well. It's more focused on kind of the next 5 to 10 years, where you want to be making investments. A lot of what's in a strategic plan, and this is true for James City County, your comprehensive plan and your currently adopted strategic plan speak to each other. So you have a newly adopted comprehensive plan that sets out some specific priorities for what should be folded into what I like to think of as kind of the shorter or midterm implementation items that go into the strategic plan. So, and the strategic plan is really, I think of all plans as being kind of a compact between the leaders of a community and the community itself, the community members, residents, businesses, business owners, landowners, about how that local government is going to use its resources. And resources can be tax dollars, so how you're actually going to be investing your tax dollars, or it's also inclusive of folks like yourself, the actual people that do the work. So all of the great folks that work for James City County that provide all the great facilities and services, what are their priorities going to be on a daily basis that are going to help support the vision for the community?
So, is a strategic plan something that you all work really hard on for a while and then it just goes into a binder and sits on the shelf? Or is it something that is referred to on a regular basis? I
We
think I kind of
Yeah.
pointed an answer there.
We certainly hope not. I'm a big fan of, the real value of planning in general is about the implementation. We spend a lot of time developing the plans, and it's very important that everybody's on the same page about the final plan and what that is setting out to achieve. But honestly, it doesn't achieve anything at that point. You have to implement the plan. Implementation is really key. And I think James City County has done, it's had, to my knowledge, you've got one kind of strategic plan in its current form that's really focused on prioritizing capital projects and operational initiatives. And you've done a very good job at focusing on those and getting a lot of those completed. And so I think that is something that's really critical. And you've built that in, again, to your comprehensive planning process. There's a tie between the two plans. And I think definitely as the county's leadership has worked through budgeting and capital improvement planning for the last several years, you have looked to the strategic plan as guidance for what to be investing in the community. So I think you guys are doing great in terms of implementing. But now it's time to update. The world's a different place. James City County, to some extent, is a different place than it was in 2016 when the last plan was adopted. And so we've got a new comprehensive plan that provides us new guidance about the vision for the community that we want to be folding in. We also need to be looking at, okay, a lot of things were accomplished, but there are some new things that we want to be doing now as well. So how do we kind of sort through what's the new inventory of actions, so to speak, that we want to be implementing and figuring out what those priorities are. So we're kind of the early stage of this process. We're going to be kicking it off, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more here shortly. But we'll be kicking it off with the community here in a couple of weeks, and getting a lot of great input on what should the priorities be for the community thinking about the next 5 to 10 years.
So explain to us, because again, I know that it is a process. It's not something that's just done over the case of a month. Where are we in the process, and what are our next steps before we get
Sure.
into how citizens can get involved?
That's a great question. So we've had initial interviews with county departments, with the constitutional offices that are established in James City County, with your board of supervisors, your county administrator. Um, so we're really trying to get an understanding of building off the foundation of the currently adopted strategic plan. Where are we at with that? What's still working well? What maybe do we need to be thinking about a little bit differently? What goals might we want to be shifting or adding? The comprehensive plan obviously is an important influencer in terms of how it's going to be updated through this process. But there are other plans that the county has adopted since 2016 as well. So that's another thing that we've been doing is working with all of the various departments within the county to identify all the new plans and studies that have been developed since the last strategic plan was adopted, and looking at new capital projects and operational initiatives, new implementation items that we should be looking at as part of this process. And again, trying to figure out what the priorities should be. There are only so many resources, so we want to make sure that we're kind of focusing dollars in the right and time, staff time, in the right way. So that's really kind of our challenge to figure out in this process. So we've been looking at what your current plans and studies are. We've been conducting those early interviews, and now we're going in the fun mode of preparing. We're almost done preparing, and here soon we're going to be doing some public engagement. So that's part of that early stage of the process, hearing from the community about what they value, what is most important to them, some of the, getting some reactions about the goals that are in the currently adopted strategic plan, and maybe some new ideas for goals. And really trying to kind of have a conversation about what this new strategic plan at a high level should be really focused on and helping to implement. So from there, we'll move on to, okay, great. We'll have, inputs from the community. And again, we'll talk a little bit more in the podcast about all of that and the details about how people can engage. But then we'll say, okay, we've got our inventory, we've got guidance from the board and from the community about where we want to be heading. Let's start looking a little bit more specifically at what those projects and initiatives might be, and also doing an evaluation of kind of cost, the best we can kind of understand at this point in time, how much it's going to, what the fees, the costs are associated with these different projects and initiatives. Some of them might not have additional costs, some of them probably will. And so we want to have an understanding of what that fiscal implication is as we go through and kind of make those recommendations.
Okay, so when would we expect that the entire strategic plan, has been updated and is done? Is that
So yeah, that is going to happen.
okay?
And we have 2 rounds of engagement. This first
Okay.
round is, again, really kind of trying, giving the community an opportunity to provide their ideas, insights, share with us what they value in terms of public facilities and services that they want to be prioritized for public investment. So that's going to be happening next month. In September. And then we're going to be coming back. We'll take that information, again, the fiscal analysis, and working with the technical advisory group, which is made up of many wonderful county staff team members from various departments. And we're going to be working through for many months the kind of nuts and bolts of that strategic plan. And then we would come out in the spring of next year, so spring of 2025, and we would share what we call the public review draft of the plan. And so that will provide an opportunity for residents to see the full plan before it goes through the public adoption process. So that lets us learn from folks, okay, we got it about right, or maybe we need to make some tweaks to it. We can make those adjustments. then it would go through the formal adoption process with the Board of Supervisors. So that gives everybody an opportunity to kind of fine tune it before we get to that final stage, which would be kind of late spring, early summer of next year when we would be going through that adoption process.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So
Yeah.
let's get into the citizen input opportunity. I know that it's great that it is updated periodically because there could be folks that are new to the community now that were not part of the original plan. There could be folks that were at a different stage of life. Maybe they had small children and now they have a little bit more free time and they can really look at the plan and be involved. So, what is this first great opportunity that we have to get folks involved?
Well, we're calling it the strategic plan update open house
Okay.
or workshop that's happening on September 9th at Legacy Hall. And so we hope that folks can come out to that. It's going to be a great opportunity. It's being hosted in the evening. I believe it's 6 to 8 o'clock, something about that time frame. We will have a presentation that will give everybody an overview. So if you don't know anything about the strategic plan and you're still confused, we will be happy to kind of walk you through the basics of the currently adopted strategic plan and then the update process that we're going through right now. We'll have a series of activities that we're going to ask people to kind of share their thoughts and opinions about various things that will help inform the folks that are working on drafting the plan, understand what the community's interests are and what their priorities are with respect to public facilities and services moving forward. There will also, if folks can't make it to that meeting on September 9th, at Legacy Hall, we will also have an opportunity for people to do the same exact activities. And we'll have a recording of the presentation so they can watch that as well. And that will be online for a period of time. And I don't believe we've kind of finalized the final date of that, but that'll be up for a number of weeks after the workshop so that we have an opportunity to get additional inputs from folks. They can do it in their bunny slippers from home or wherever they're most comfortable doing it, because we want to try to hear from as many folks as possible.
Well, and I think that's great. I think there are probably people listening or watching that have heard group activity and then was like, nope, okay, I'm busy. I can't be there. I love that we have the opportunity for folks to give that input either way in a group public setting or at their house. I think that's awesome.
That's right.
Well, very good. So, meeting coming up on September 9th. I do believe that if folks want to sign up for a newsletter to make sure that they're kept involved, and we'll have all of that information at the end of the podcast on a screen and in the show notes as well, so people can find out all of that information as well. So, anything else before September 9th that you'd like to talk about?
Just to emphasize that some of this stuff kind of seems a little dry, maybe not as exciting as other things that are going on in the world and in our lives. But this stuff really matters because the decisions made through this process will determine the investments made in your community, which is ultimately going to guide kind of your quality of life in the future in the county. It's a great place. We love working in James City County. You're a wonderful community, and I don't anticipate that changing in the future. But these decisions are important. And so I encourage people to come out and share their thoughts and opinions. The plan's always better the more people that we hear from and perspectives that we get. So just encourage people to come out.
Absolutely. Well, Leanne, thank you so much. I know that you are very busy, and I know that you're working with other localities and not just, the best county in the entire country, which
It
is
is
us,
pretty
but
amazing.
we are, and we're humble too. I think that that's important for people to know. But thank you again so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that wraps up this episode of This Week in James City County. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please be sure to subscribe. That way you will never miss an episode. And also go to our website. We're at jamescitycountyva.gov/podcast. And while there, you're going to be able to find all of our episodes as well as a form that you can complete. Give us show ideas, comments, critiques. We would love to hear from you. So once again, we're going to have at the end of the show the information about the September 9th meeting, as well as other ways that you can continue to get information on the strategic plan. So once again, thank you so much, and we will talk with you all next time.